job is stressful, but sometimes it can literally kill you. They say every Florida graveyard has its secrets. I never wanted to be the gatekeeper of Hollow Pine Cemetery on the swampy outskirts of Palatka, Florida. The job came with my uncle's old trailer, a rusted key ring, and stories I laughed off as a kid. Tales of a woman in white who wandered the graves searching for something she'd lost. I'm 28, stuck in a dead-end life, and the pay's enough to keep the lights on, so I took it. The cemetery's a sprawl of moss-draped oaks and sagging headstones sinking into the marshy earth. By day, it's just humid and quiet. At night, it's something else. It was late November 2007, the air thick with damp heat and the buzz of cicadas. I'd been on the job a month, locking the gates at dusk, checking for vandals, and dragging palm fronds off the paths. That night, I was late finishing my rounds, my flashlight flickering as I trudged past the oldest graves near the back, where the ground squelched under my boots. The fog rolled in, heavy and sour, smelling of stale water. My watch read 11:47 p.m. I was ready to head back to the trail when I heard it, a low, keening wail, like a woman crying just beyond the tree line. I froze, my flashlight beam darting across the headstones. "Hello," I called, voice shaky. Nothing but the cicadas answered. I told myself it was an animal, a heron maybe, or a bobcat, but then I saw her, a figure in a tattered white dress, gliding between the graves, her long hair trailing like Spanish moss. She wasn't walking, her feet didn't touch the ground. My heart slammed against my ribs, and I clicked off the flashlight, ducking behind a cracked obelisk. The air grew colder, the cicadas falling silent. She stopped, maybe 20 yards away, her head tilted as if listening. I couldn't see her face, just the pale outline of her form against the fog. Then she spoke, her voice soft but sharp, like a blade wrapped in silk. "You have it." My blood turned to ice. I hadn't taken anything, and hadn't even been in the oldest part of the cemetery until tonight. I stayed crouched, breath shallow, praying she'd move on, but the ground beneath me shifted, soft earth giving way like it was breathing. I bolted, my boots sinking into the mud, the keyring jangling on my belt. The wail followed, louder now, weaving through the trees. I glanced back, her dress flickered in the fog, closer, her arms outstretched like she was reaching for me. The cemetery felt endless, the gates nowhere in sight. Headstones loomed, their inscriptions half erased but glowing faintly in the dark. Jacob, 1979 to 2007. My name, my birth year. I choked on a scream, tripping over a root, my flashlight tumbling into the muck. I scrambled up, chest heaving, and ran toward the trailer's faint porch light. The wail turned into words. "Give it back!" I didn't know what she meant, but my pocket felt heavy, like something was weighing it down. I reached in and pulled out a small, cold object, a locket, silver and tarnished, etched with a rose. I'd never seen it before. My fingers shook as I pried it open. Inside was a faded photo of a woman, her eyes wide and empty, her mouth twisted in a silent scream. The air grew thick, and the smell of rot was overwhelming. She was there, right in front of me, her face inches from mine. Her eyes were hollow sockets, her skin peeling like old paint. "Mine," she hissed, her breath like wetland water. I threw the locket at her, but it didn't hit the ground. It hung in the air, spinning, as her fingers closed around it. The ground quaked, vines bursting from the earth, wrapping my ankles. I fell, clawing at the mud, but the vines were alive, slithering up my legs, cold and slick. Her wail became a laugh, high and jagged, cutting through my skull. "You took it," she said, her face hovering over me, her hair brushing my cheeks like wet moss. "Now, you stay." The vines tightened, pulling me down, the earth swallowing my knees, my waist. I screamed, thrashing, but the mud was a living thing, hungry. Her hollow eyes locked on mine, and I saw myself in them, trapped, sinking, forever. I woke gasping on the trailer floor, my clothes soaked in sweat and mud. My watch read 12:03 a.m. The locket was gone, my pocket empty, I stumbled outside, the fog thinner now, the cemetery silent. My flashlight lay in the mud by the obelisk, its beam still flickering. I didn't pick it up. I locked the trailer, drank half a bottle of whiskey, and tried to forget. The next day, I found the locket on my porch, glowing like it had been polished. I buried it in the swamp, deep where the water's black and still. But that night, the wailing started again, closer, inside the trailer. My doors rattled, the windows fogged with breath that wasn't mine. I quit the job the next morning, left the trailer, and moved to Jacksonville. I told myself it was over. But last week, I found muddy footprints on my apartment floor, small and wet, leading to my bed. The locket was on my pillow, open, the woman's photo replaced with one of me, my eyes hollow, my mouth screaming. At night, I hear her wail, carried on the humid Florida air. "You can't leave." And in the dark, I see her white dress, gliding closer, waiting for me to come back to Hollow Pines. Personally, I have no bone to pick with graveyards, but here's my story of how that place gave me the scariest memory. I'm Mia Delgado, 18, and I thought I knew fear growing up in the Bronx. Subway cars rattling like death traps, alleys where eyes glint from the dark. But nothing prepared me for Woodlawn Cemetery on February 27, 2025. It was dusk, the sky bleeding purple, and I was cutting through the graveyard to get home from my friend's place. My phone was at 3%, and Mom would kill me if I wasn't back soon. I slipped through the rusted gate, my sneakers grinding gravel, figuring the cemetery was just dead stones. I was wrong. Woodlawn's a maze of twisted headstones and skinny trees bigger than I realized. I took a wrong turn, then another, and the path to Mosholu Parkway vanished. My phone died, plunging me into silence so thick it felt like hands pressing on my chest. The air turned sour like rotting leaves and something worse, something meaty. Then I saw it. A flickering glow weaving through the graves, not a flashlight but a lantern, its flame sickly green. "Who's there?" I whispered, my voice swallowed by the dark. The light drifted closer and my stomach twisted. It was a girl my age, her face grey as ash, her eyes sunken pits leaking black ooze. Her lips were sewn shut with coarse thread, blood crusted at the stitches. She grinned, the thread stretching, splitting her lips until they bled. She pointed a claw-like finger toward a mausoleum, its stone cracked like broken teeth, lodged in a web of dead branches. The lantern's flame pulsed, and a cold claw sank into my mind, dragging me toward her. It was scary as hell, but maybe it was destined. My legs moved against my will, each step heavier, like wading through tar. The air stank of decay, and the ground felt soft, like it might swallow me. The mausoleum's iron door groaned open, revealing a staircase spiraling into blackness. The girl floated at the edge, her head twitching unnaturally, beckoning. My heart screamed to run, but the claw in my mind tightened, promising secrets I didn't want. I descended, my sneakers slipping on steps slick with something wet and warm. The chamber below was a crypt, its walls pulsing with carved symbols that bled red in the lantern's glow. A stone slab sat in the center, holding a book, its leather cover writhing like skin. The girl's eyes burned into me, her stitched mouth dripping as she pointed. My hands shook as I opened the book. Names filled the pages, scratched in jagged ink, each with a death date. Then I saw it. Mia Delgado scrawled in dripping blood, dated February 27th, 2025. My scream stuck in my throat, so this was my last day alive. The chamber roared, a deep howl from the walls, like 1,000 throats waking. Shadows bled from the stone, not cast, but alive, clawing hands, eyeless faces, mouths gaping with needled teeth. They lunged, their touch burning cold, wrapping my legs like barbed wire. I stumbled, but the girl's icy grip yanked me back to the slab, her nails digging into my wrist, drawing blood. Her eyes weren't pleading now, they were hungry. I understood. The book was alive, a predator, and my name was its prey. I clawed at the page, tearing it free, blood smearing my fingers. The shadows screamed a sound like bones snapping, and the chamber buckled, stones cracking. The girl's grin widened, threads ripping her lips further, blood pooling at her feet. She shoved the lantern into my hands, its flame flaring green, searing my skin. The shadows recoiled, but their whispers became knives, promising to peel my soul apart. I bolted for the stairs, the lantern's light barely holding back the darkness. The shadows surged, their fingers brushing my neck, whispering my name in voices that weren't human. The stairs twisted, endless, the walls oozing red. The mausoleum door was sealed, pulsing like flesh. I slammed the lantern against it, the flame exploding, and the door burst open, spitting me into the night. The cemetery fought me, paths coiling, graves splitting open, hands reaching from the dirt. The girl followed, her lantern now a beacon, her laughter a wet gurgle. I ran until my lungs burned and I saw the gate to Mosholu Parkway. I didn't stop until I was home, slamming the door. Mom was yelling, but I couldn't hear her over my own heartbeat. The lantern was cold now, its flame dead, but I felt it watching me. I shoved it under my bed, my hands still shaking, stained with blood that wasn't mine. That night, I dreamed of the girl, her face splitting open, her eyes crawling with worms. The book was there, my name was gone, but new names bled onto the page, each one screaming. I woke to choke, my room reeking of decay. The lantern's under my bed, and at night I hear it scrape, its flame flickering green through the cracks. I don't go near Woodlawn. The city's shadows move now, whispering my name. She's out there, with her hungry eyes, waiting for me to get a return. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. Well, it's not true if you find yourself in a graveyard. The old Ironwood Cemetery in Michigan's Upper Peninsula was the kind of place where the cold never left, even in summer. The pines stood like silent guardians, their shadows stretching long and crooked over the crumbling tombstones. My father had been the groundskeeper here for 30 years, and when he died, the job and the rotting caretaker's cottage passed to me. I didn't mind the quiet at first. The dead were better company than the living, I figured. But then the whispers started. It was late October when I first heard them. The wind carried voices between the trees, murmurs just below understanding. I told myself it was just the breeze through the pines, but then I saw the footprints, small, barefoot, leading from an unmarked grave near the back fence to the edge of my porch. They vanished halfway, as if whoever, whatever, had made them had simply dissolved into the air. That night I rushed to the doors and drank until my hands stopped shaking. 3 days later I found the first offering. A child's doll, its porcelain face cracked, lay propped against my father's headstone. Its glassy eyes stared up at me. Its smile too wide, too knowing. The fabric of its dress was damp as if it had been buried for years. I threw it into the woods. The next morning, it was back on my doorstep. That's when I started digging. The unmarked grave was old, the earth sunken and soft. My shovel hit wood sooner than I expected, a small coffin, rotted through. Inside, wrapped in a tattered white dress, was a little girl. No, not a girl. Her skin was too smooth, too wrong. Her lips were sewn shut with black thread. And then, her eyes opened. I stumbled back, my breath coming in ragged gasps. She didn't move, didn't blink, just stared. I filled the grave as fast as I could, my heart hammering against my ribs. She came to me that night. I woke to the sound of scratching at the window. There she was, her tiny fingers dragging down the glass, her stitched mouth twisting into something like a smile. The door creaked open on its own. Cold air rushed in, carrying the scent of wet earth and something sweet like rotting fruit. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. She climbed onto the bed, her weight like ice against my legs. The threads in her lips strained as she leaned close, her breath like winter against my ear. "You let me out," she whispered. "Now you have to play." The police found me at dawn, wandering barefoot down the highway, babbling about graves that open on their own and dolls that won't stay buried. They say the caretaker's cottage burned down that night. They say the fire was so hot that even the bones turned to ash. But sometimes, when the wind is right, I still hear her, and I know she's waiting for me to come home.